Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about What If Deku Was Stark's Conscience Part 2. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see Part 3, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗵𝗲 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. You know who this is? 𝐒𝐻𝐁𝗵𝗲. He said. All Might had picked him up and hugged him. You're appealing, man. Your food is appealing. You're all amazing. Your culinary skills, All Might likes my food. He called me appealing. The fish-headed man said. Forget get beauty. It's straight up plus ultra. All Might exclaimed. I haven't eaten this good in years, my good man. Tell me your name. 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗵𝗆. 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗵𝗆, thank you for this angel's flesh you call food. The fish-headed man started weeping as the rest clapped. All Might had spent the next 30 minutes shaking hands, hugging everyone and signing whatever they asked him to. One more thing before I go. All Might said, cause a bolt of fear to go though the kitchen crew. Could I get some of that soup to go? Okay, 𝗕 said. Plus, All Might had told them if he had not tipped them before leaving he'd feel like he'd have spit in the face of an angel. The entire restaurant staff was 10,000 yen richer, $100, and had taken pictures with All Might. He called my food plus ultra, 𝗕 said. Later, All Might returned to UA and was smacked down from his high of being in full health. Paperwork. Entrance exam. May had convinced Izuku to let her wear the undersheath under her clothes. He had told her she could but keep the hood down. She had her gloves on so it looked like she was wearing a gold shirt underneath. Izuku had his boots on under his breathe legs and his repulsor gauntlets in standby mode under his shirt. So are you gonna use your babies during the test? May asked. Nezu said he'd approve it, but he also agreed to a bet I can't refuse. Izuku said, if I can successfully get in quirkless he'd cut the 14 million I owe him for saving my butt in half. 14 million yen. May asked. Dollars. Izuku said. Namibian. May asked. American. Izuku said. $1 is about 15 Namibian dollars. Namibia is a country in Southwest Africa that is distinguished by the Namib Desert along its Atlantic Ocean coast. I learned that today researching other dollars in the world specifically for this skit. The more you know. May face bleached. That was a lot of money to just casually owe someone without your organs being threatened as collateral. Izuku didn't show any external signs of being fazed by it. How are you not broke? May asked. Your broke and my broke are very different. Izuku said. Stark Construction was going into a more residential repair service and renting out arc fusion-powered construction equipment, so even though the same people of the original company were still working, there was a noticeable profit. Flipping the employees to commission had allowed them to be on call for projects while having other work. Izuku's construction plans were on and off, so this prevented all of them from getting screwed out of a good job. Stark Power was already making him a fortune. Okay, I tried mathing this, but I couldn't find info on the largest nuclear planet, so using Google Math and other info on standard nuclear reactors, here's my math. Japan's year's power usage is 341 exajoules or 3,410,000,000 gigajoules a year. Dividing that by 365 brings us to 9,342,465. 7534247 gigajoules a day. Now Japan's power production is almost 30% in 2011. They plan to raise that to 40% in 2017 and 50% in 2030. Now, since the stagnation of Earth due to quirks, let's say it's 50 for simplicity. So 9,342,465. 7534247 gigajoules divided by 2 gives us 4,671,232. 8767124 gigajoules from nuclear power only. There are 39 nuclear reactors in Japan from what I could find. Only 9 in 5 nuclear plants are currently running. So if we divide our number by the currently running ones, so 4,671,232. 8767124 divided by 9 is equal to 519,025. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 𝗔𝐬𝐽 each. Rounding it up, they make 519,026 𝐔𝐬/day. Tony says his arc reactor produces 3 𝐔𝐬/s. That's the one in his chest. Given a day without fighting something it would make, there are 86,400 seconds in a day, so 3 times 86,400 is equal to 259,200 𝐔𝐬/day. So his mini reactor isn't as powerful as a standard reactor, but we're not comparing the WIMP pocket reactor, we're comparing it to this F thing. So his mini reactor isn't as powerful as a standard reactor, but we're not comparing the WIMP pocket reactor, we're comparing it to this F thing. Let's be conservative that this thing makes at least 10 times the mini does. It's still producing 259,200,000 𝐔𝐬/day. Hell, you want to be stingy and say it makes 5 times as much as the mini, that's still 1,296,000 𝐔𝐬/day. Even at twice as much it's still 518,000 𝐔𝐬/day. From what I could find, it said the massive one makes 8 𝐔𝐬/s multiple, that by 86,400 brings the Chad reactor to 691,200 𝐔𝐬/s. This kinda spiraled, but this is for those that like this kinda thing. Back to the story. If you're not gonna use your babies, then why are you wearing them? Mei asked. "'Cause I can't find a more comfortable shoe," Izuku said. The boots were tailored to maximize the bounce of his forward momentum while absorbing any shock he takes from landing. They were nearly as flexible as wearing a pair of sneakers, but prevented twisting an ankle or breaking a foot from dropping something. The soles had an active feedback that recorded a foot landing on a surface, then created an anti-sound, so when running you wouldn't even hear his feet. He may have a red painted armor, but sometimes you had to hide, and if you turned behind a corner and it sounds like you were 20 feet away instead of right behind the corner, someone wouldn't see a repulsor blast coming. "Hey, I've wanted to ask about your goggles," Izuku said, changing the subject. "Could I see them?" "Sure," Mei said. Mei said, "4K." Mei said, "Why are they like this?" Izuku said, pulling them from his face. "They're from my doctor. I modified them to fit my style, but my quirk makes it hard to look around, and I'm supposed to be wearing them all the time, so," Mei gestured to the current look, "gotta make 'em look good." "No, I mean, why are they like this?" Izuku gestured from his eyes to his out to his hands. "You could just make a better lens system to compensate for the shake. You learn to cope," Mei said, waving it off. Izuku looked at her before shrugging it off. "This is it. I'm officially walking in here to start my hero career," Izuku said, smiling. Mei had gone ahead of him and he took a deep breath. A grin on his face, he took his first step through and started falling forward. "Move, Deku." Katsumi pushed him over. "That figures." Izuku things reaching his arms out, but instead of sending himself back up, he flipped forward and was suspended in midair. Izuku things reaching his arms out, but instead of sending himself back up, he flipped forward and was suspended in midair. "Ya hit would be." "Thanks," Izuku said. "Name's Izuku. I'm Ochako. Good luck in the exam," she said, walking into the building. Izuku smiled and continued walking in. Written test room. Izuku was burning through it, leaning back in his seat. His packet hit Ectoplasm's desk 10 minutes after it was passed out. "Are you finished, Mr. Midoriya?" Ectoplasm asked. "Yep." "Let's go check then," Ectoplasm's copy said, picking it up and leading Izuku out the room. Ida Tenya, the youngest of Ida family, the brother of the current rapid hero, Ingenium, graduate and valedictorian of Somei High, watched the green-haired boy walk out with a copy of Ectoplasm. His complete lack of poise had put a bad taste in his mouth. Leaning back in your seat, approaching the teacher and speaking with such lack of respect. After guessing, though, the entire test. A barbarian. This Neanderthal had no respect for this sacred place of learning. When I had finished my test, double-checking my marks and ensuring everything was proper, I exited the testing room. He was speaking to a purple-haired student, and as I passed him I had heard a snippet of their conversation. The term "F it" is really useful in these scenarios. Either you make it or you're in Gen Ed. I couldn't even continue to hear his voice. This boy wouldn't even set foot in Somei before being kicked out. When I entered the auditorium, the green-haired hooligan had been sat next to a spiky-haired blonde girl. Okay, time to lay down the 411 for what's going on. Present Mike said. Izuku, he was muttering about his strategy for the exam. Plus, a voice snapped me out my muttering. I turned to see a blue-haired boy pointing at me. Me. Yes, you. The green-haired hooligan. Is this a joke to you? Ida asked. This is an establishment of high prestige and your muttering is distracting. If you're here to play, you shouldn't be here. Yeah, Deku, a quirkless loser like you should walk out before you embarrass yourself. Katsumi said, getting shocked looks from the other students. Quirkless. You heard that right. His name's Deku. Izuku glared and said, okay, first of all, I'm a ragamuffin at best. This got a few chuckles. Second, yes, I am quirkless, but just cause I am, I don't expect to be given a handout. I will get in with the same dedication and hard work as everyone in this room. If you're gonna try and belittle me, I'd suggest bringing enough ammunition next time. If your butt is willing to cash a check that Mouth just wrote, meet me at Dagobah Beach after the exam. Hey, now let's stop escalating. Present Mike said, if someone was trying to sabotage another student, they'd be disqualified, and there are cameras in every location of the testing ground, so we'd know. They both sat down and Izuku glared at Katsumi. You know, I didn't want the judges knowing I'm quirkless. The way he looked at her. The way that caring face he always had turned to bile had put an uneasy feeling in her very soul. Deku didn't get angry. Not like this. Locker room, the muttering about why was he even here and what did he expect to do when faced with the robots had put him in an upset mood. He had wanted a new start here, but whatever. He'd gone through it all before, but like he said, opinions are like assholes. We all have one and they all stink, so get over it. As Izuku was putting his gloves in his locker along with his clothes, a well-dressed rodent man approached him. Who's that? I think that's Nezu. Why is he in here? Is he here to get the loser out? Midoriya, I see you're putting your gloves away for this task. Nezu said. You know our bet. I can't use any tech. Izuku said, I won't turn on my boots, but I don't own other shoes that I'd feel comfortable running in. If you want me to do this barefoot, I will. Oh, that's not why I'm here, Izuku. Though I am disappointed you're leaving your gloves here. Takes away the temptation to lose our wager. But there is something else of concern. Izuku sighed and reached under his shirt. A click was heard, but no one knew what it was. Not that, my boy. Our bet is nothing you've built already. Nezu said, I'd never put you in a situation where you can't think your way out of. You and I both know what I think about intelligence-based survival. So anything I build inside the zone is fair. Izuku asked. Nezu nodded, I'd expect nothing less. Nezu put a paw on Izuku's chest and twisted the arc reactor back into place. The human race are the pinnacle of intelligence-based survival techniques. I'd like you to prove that. Nezu walked away and Izuku said, to who? Nezu's evil smile had every tense. Everyone. Izuku had chuckled, thanks Chimera. The rest of the muttering had turned into talks about him knowing Nezu and what that was about. Testing ground alpha entrance. Izuku had stretched and was looking around. More muttering. Izuku looked around. I had to screenshot these next few photos, ignore the text for this one. I had to screenshot these next few photos, ignore the text for this one. Izuku walked over and could tell she was just as nervous as the rest of us. A hand grabbed his shoulder and turned him around. A hand grabbed his shoulder and turned him around. This one, you can pay attention to the text. If you true are quirkless, then the only reason you are here is you're a plant by the school to test us. The blue-haired guy said. Dude, could you F off? We're all stressed. You're stressed, I'm stressed, she's stressed. Man, just chill. If you think you're stressed, take a second to actually consider the rest of us aren't the fourth generation of the Ida clan. The boy backed off. How did you know? Dash. Your face is identical to 𝗔𝗵𝗵. So think about this, rich boy. The rest of us aren't here with 3 generations of hero advice. We're here with the clothes on our backs and whatever we could do to prepare for this. Izuku shouted, shoving Ida. I'd suggest you close your eyes, take a deep breath and think of the rest of us, you entitled piece of. We're here to prove we can be heroes. Heroes don't push other down to get ahead. They offer a hand to better themselves and the ones they help. Now please F off and good luck in the exam. Izuku had stunned the crowd and just continued his approach to Ochako. I know you're probably just as nervous as I am about this. I'm the first person in my family to try to be a hero. Izuku said. Me too. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 said. Look, if your quirk is as good as I could gauge from earlier, I full-heartedly believe you can do this. Izuku said. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 looked at him and matched that smile of his. Now take a deep breath. Put all your fears and insecurities into it and let it go. This is where the boys become men. This is where the little girls become women. This is where heroes are born. This is where legends are made. Closest picture I could find to match what I'm picturing here. Closest picture I could find to match what I'm picturing here. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 closed her eyes and took a deep breath. A weight on her soul lifted as she breathed out. You ready to prove how ultra we can get? Izuku asked, holding up a hand. Yes. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 said, high-fiving him. He started floating, and before 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 could set him down, he asked her to hold his leg for a second. To the rest of you, keep this fact in mind. We are a species that clawed its way to the top of the 4 billion year deep corpse pile of evolution. Thought our ability to think, work together and persevere though whatever nature threw at us. Izuku said, we are the apex of intelligence-based survival. The cities we live in is a testament to our ability to work together. It's time to prove, not to just the ones judging use today, but to the people down the road when we're heroes fighting whatever there is later on. Thrive to be better. Thrive to be plus ultra. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 had finished. As if the true meaning of the school's motto just came to her. The gate started slowly opening, but Izuku had walked to it and kicked it fully open. Ladies first. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 smiled and ran out with Izuku following. Go go. There aren't countdowns in a villain attack. Present, Mike said over the loudspeaker. Judge's room, interesting speech. Midnight said. He's still quirkless. A tired, cynical voice said, leaning against a wall. Some cheap words won't stop a giant robot. Mine would. Present, Mike said cheekily. Plus you can already see the difference. The screen of Testing Ground Beta showed a lower amount of teamwork. A screen of Izuku and 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 running with one another and their first encounter. Izuku jumped over 2 and punched through the 3-pointer while 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 had used her quirk on the other 2 and slammed them together. Izuku jumped over 2 and punched through the 3-pointer while 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 had used her quirk on the other 2 and slammed them together. Izuku was ripping the one he hit and pulling parts out. Go ahead. Izuku said. 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 nodded and bolted off. Izuku jumped into one and the sound of ripping metal and sparks flying was heard. What's he doing? One of the other teachers trying to get a better look but couldn't see inside the carcass. Ida had stopped and looked around. 36, I think. The brown-haired girl, the quirkless boy, had spoken to, had a trail of destroyed robots. A 3-pointer was behind me, and when I was about to kick it, a molt of green fire had blasted it apart. A 3-pointer was behind me, and when I was about to kick it, a molt of green fire had blasted it apart. Picture this made of scrap metal, and shooting this. Picture this made of scrap metal, and shooting this. The deranged laughs from the green-haired boy had mirrored the ones from a blonde-haired girl currently stomping a 3 under her feet. Katsumi, the ground under her feet cratering with each step. She forgot the amount of robots she had destroyed. Her trail of destruction, a glorious masterpiece. I am amazing. Katsumi and her angel and devil shouted all at once. Another robot shattered like glass as she had jumped on it. The ground quaked as she turned and saw both her and Deku had the same reaction. Both her and Deku had the same reaction. Izuku and Katsumi had seen the monstrosity at the same time, and Izuku popped the near-empty cartridge he was using from the robots he destroyed and put in his last one. Izuku and Katsumi had seen the monstrosity at the same time, and Izuku popped the near-empty cartridge he was using from the robots he destroyed and put in his last one. They ran on a power lithium-ion batteries. Izuku turned into liquid ammo for the gun, basically charging them to near exploding with the arc reactor. The heads of both machines were blasted apart. The difference was the gun didn't have the force to knock it backwards. So the headless robot was falling forward, towards a mass of students. Izuku shouted as they rushed down the street. Directly away from robot. Not that way. Prometheus school of running away from things. Idiots. Izuku thought before turning and seeing 𝗬𝗧𝗪𝗏 pinned under some rubble. Izuku tried to charge the gun, but it wasn't firing. He just started running towards it and jumped. his body not even thinking. 𝗓𝗏𝗄 Izuku ran past me and the gun was dropped near me as he jumped up. A blue light came out his feet and he held it up. 𝗓𝗏𝗄 had lifted the rubble off herself and crawled away. She had grabbed the weapon and something inside her just pulled her towards it. She had picked it up and tried to just point and fire, but the gun wasn't firing. "Come oh no, there's 𝗬𝗏𝗄𝐻," 𝗓𝗏𝗄 said, flicking it, and her arm dislocated from the kickback. She had gotten both hands on it and the now solid beam had sliced through it from the leg to the headless shoulder. She had gotten both hands on it and the now solid beam had sliced through it from the leg to the headless shoulder, basically this, but green Izuku kicked one half to the side so it didn't hit anyone and floated the other down gently. "Nice shootin', Texas," Izuku said, grinning before a look came over him. Izuku said, grinning before a look came over him. "Is something wrong?" 𝗓𝗏𝗄 asked. "I just lost $7 million." Izuku said. "Who?" Was the only thing she could think to say. "Who?" Was the only thing she could think to say. This is a breakdown of Izuku's existing equipment and standing in the tech tree just so everyone is caught up. This is so everyone knows what Izuku has and what he doesn't currently have and some things to clear up. Experience. Izuku has been a backseat driver to Tony since before he was booted out the car Howard Stark dropped him off at Andover boarding school when he was a kid. He has witnessed everything Tony has from the day he built his first gadget to the day he gave his live to destroy Thanos. Izuku has been Tony's 𝗔𝗵𝗏, and the first time he was able to actually influence Tony was when the shrapnel got into his heart. Izuku has been Tony's 𝗔𝗵𝗏, and the first time he was able to actually influence Tony was when the shrapnel got into his heart. This is the exact moment Izuku has been Tony's urge to help people. He was the one that pushed the Sokovia Accords. Izuku's reason was he was trying to put in place the quirk laws that weren't in place for 100 plus years in his timeline, that without them has caused essentially a second Dark Ages in his universe, making the whole not going into space thing a thing in his reality. It wasn't meant to be what it turned into in the Civil War movies. Politics and the mutant population at the time being so low had unfortunately made it the way it was. We all create the things that destroy us. Ultron. The road to hell. Izuku remembers putting on the Infinity Gauntlet. He remembers experiencing the entirety of the universe, and his faith is an extension of this experience. Izuku is basically if you compress Tony's entire experience into a 18-year-old and take away his addiction to alcohol. Yes, Izuku at this point is the equivalent of Tony in his own universe. He's smarter than Tony in the sense he can grow, but he isn't exactly Shuri to Tony in brain power. Intelligence. Izuku's mind in comparison, if you want a scale of things. Mei is Shuri in the ability of raw brain power. She's like if we saw a younger Shuri, even though Shuri is 21 in the endgame. If there's a 5-year time skip Soya, she is a younger Shuri. So give her a few years and she's gonna be outstepping Izuku, but she's also a mechanic first and foremost, so she's gonna be a lot better at that than Izuku. Izuku has helped her with actually getting her business off the ground. Nezu is the Reed Richards of the universe. He is smart, but his goal is raising the next generation of heroes and believes in progress that the world has neglected for hundreds of years. The last redacted games of chess Izuku and Nezu have played resulted in redacted wins and redacted losses. Izuku currently owes him $14 million, which Nezu knows he could bankrupt Izuku if he tries to cash it in all at once. Nezu has Cementos build stuff in the school for probably free if not a massive reduced price, so he knows it's better to not hinder Stark Industries' climb towards the heavens. Especially since he also looks up to the stars, wondering what if the human race went upwards. Melissa's shield is the Rocket Raccoon of the world. This is because she redacted Izuku is the jack of all trades when it comes to building. He'd stomp Mei in chemistry or nuclear physics, but she'd flatten him if he attempted to compete with her support gear. He'd beat Melissa in nanotechnology, but she'd rip him to shreds in redacted. Nezu Momo is Hank Pym of the universe. This is because censored, and she censored all characters in the story when comparing brain power is based off movies and Google. So I know in the OG material Pym made Ultron, but this is the MCU. Characters. Faith. Izuku is a believer of neural physics and living time. His reaction to danger is when people are at risk and acts accordingly. Until he gets his hero license, he won't act unless someone close to him is in danger. His rescue in Iron Someone to the Rescue wasn't a consequence of this, but that was why he didn't resist when Nezu stepped in or when he told Izuku what he wanted for this. He broke the law and his own code when he jumped in the stop that hijacking. His plan to rectify this is to redact it. What he did to the guy that hit his mother was an overreaction on his part, but has spoken to Nezu about that, and the Chimera has plans for this. This is also why Nezu stepped in with the plane. The urge to save people is something Izuku still has to work on. Any hero would understand our body moved before our minds could even think. So yes, it will come up later. I didn't forget. The Infinity Gauntlet is a reason for this faith. Izuku had seen the universe in the eyes of a god, and unlike Tony, who saw his own daughter grown up, saw the very fabric of the universe in its barest form. If you look up Halo lore on neural physics, you'd get a better understanding of his beliefs. Izuku has not discovered a way to apply neural physics to real-world technology like the star roads of the precursors in Halo. Izuku has not discovered a way to apply neural physics to real-world technology like the star roads of the precursors in Halo. These blue things, if anyone needs some clarification. The faith of living time is that the entire universe is a living being and every sentient being is a neuron in that being. The interactions between all life is merely neurons firing in the brain of this being. So he doesn't hold the abolish all evil ideal many heroes hold. Izuku has theorized that if the universe is like this, there is probably a species that is in fact the universe itself given form to experience itself. This belief also brings his firm belief in free will and the balance of good and evil. He is an All Might fan, but the fact of All Might bringing more challenge to the villains isn't lost to him. This will bring a discussion with Ibara Shiozaki in the future. Personally, Izuku has mellowed out from his time with Tony. His fanboy nature and his muttering is still present, but he has a higher level of control of it. He's still our favorite green-haired hero otaku, but knows he's got a job to do. He tries to keep himself calm and collected. I'd be asked if this is a 𝐒𝐻𝗄𝐵. Well, the answer is censored combat abilities. Izuku learned a total of 2 actually taught fighting styles and a few partials. Wing Chun. We see Tony practicing it in Iron Man 3. Robert Downey Jr. actually has a black belt in this form. Muay Thai. Tony uses his knees to rocket a strike at targets. I'm gonna go with he actually looked into learning this from a teacher. Boxing. We see Tony boxing with Rhodey in Iron Man 2 and with Happy. He probably only needed a few YouTube videos for this since Rhodey beat him in the fight, so he's not a pro boxer. Combat shooting. Tony goes between so many weapons, he's basically a self-taught combat shooter. Judo. Tony has a few throwing techniques that definitely line up with judo, so I'm gonna put this on the SHT. He just googled and watched a bunch of YouTube videos on list. Izuku definitely wants to learn more. Armor. The closest armor in the MCU to Izuku's current model is the Mark 42. The closest armor in the MCU to Izuku's current model is the Mark 42. The safeties that the 43 has that don't equate to a rocket punch when they attach to him aren't present yet. However, his other add-ons to himself compensate for this, and this will be corrected eventually. Due to a bottleneck in funds, Izuku goes for the main armor units in an undersheath that he can add plates to fit a mission. The undersheaths have 3 incarnations. The raw metal. It was made of a standard spring steel alloy. Picture this, but it's all like one bodysuit. The platinum memory alloy. This is the one currently in use by Mei Hatsum in her steampunk suit and Inko's costume. This increases the wearer's strength significantly and is modular to incorporate new tech, i.e. Mei's steampunk suit, the compressed suit. This slims down the suit to fit into beads that are punched into Izuku's body that unfold when heated and flexed out. The brain for this suit is spread out in a bunch of micro SD in each bead. The highest SD card in current world is 1 TB, so a Jarvis clone is divided into the beads. The outer plates of the suit are currently not outfitted with individual power supplies, so they don't have the Mark 42 and 43 flying assembly system, but is in the works. The outer plates of the suit are currently not outfitted with individual power supplies, so they don't have the Mark 42 and 43 flying assembly system, but is in the works. Mark 1.2 arc reactor. Izuku has the Iron Man 2 Model 1 reactor. This one Not this, the reactor uses palladium cartridges that are able to be switched out when overused. Each one has the capability to run at peak efficiency for 10 years. However, the suit uses the power to throw harder punches and drains them. Izuku's body is at risk just as Tony was to palladium poisoning, but his liver and kidneys are much more equipped to filter them out, and Izuku doesn't require the arc reactor to run his heart, so he does spend a lot more time without it in. Izuku wants to upgrade, but it isn't a priority. Augmentations. Izuku has the 𝗓𝗵𝗲 𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗲 serum. It is a perfected version of the 𝗓𝗵𝗲 from Iron Man 3. Izuku will evolve this farther. Izuku bones are shaved and coated with a tungsten carbide metal foam. The advantage to this is the bones grow into the foam without hindering the bone's natural functions. Izuku's brain is lined with a synthetic tongue like a woodpecker. This negates a need for any specific safeties in a helmet that would have to counter blunt trauma. You know how Tony could go from the speed of a fighter jet to backwards without injuries? Well, this is how Izuku does it. Izuku heart is lined with an electroative polymer that uses the body's natural electrical signals to beat the heart at a greater function. This means every beat of his heart is moving BLD more efficiently than a standard heart. The arc reactor can feed power into it to increase the body's oxygen supply when needed or if the heart is being hindered in any form. Izuku has other plans for augmentations. Izuku's other body add-ons include a lock chip in his arm that he uses to access things he doesn't want others getting the key to. A cochlear implant that lets him hear audio input without headphones. The entire unit is housed internally so it wouldn't be able to be removed if he was incapacitated. I tried to attach real science to this stuff cause I like using real science for stuff. I know the 𝗓𝗵𝗲 being a human cocoon is kinda stupid, but this is an anime. Izuku has other plans for implants. Other inventions. Iron Liberty. This is Izuku's penance. Iron Liberty. This is Izuku's penance. He has sworn to never make hero gear, but this is his only exception. There is only one man he'd give this to, and you all can guess who and why. 𝗓𝗵𝗲 1 to 2. 3 are specialized 𝗓𝗵𝗲 variants meant specifically for cosmetic and minor injuries. 𝗓𝗵𝗲 4 is a selective area repair fluid. If 2. 0 is the whole body. 4 is for like regrowing an arm or fixing a spinal cord. Jam it in, it fixes SHT and then stops. 𝗓𝗵𝗲 0 is a concept that Izuku has yet to truly get to start work on. Izuku treats each invention like defusing a bomb. He can't afford to make a mistake in these like Tony could. Mei has funding from the school's budget for the support gear students, so she cranks out inventions much faster than him. Things that won't happen. Thanos. In the MHA universe, say Thanos' dad had a better pullout game. The grape is not in the MHA universe and will never be. The Infinity Stones. These are all in possession of redacted, and no living creatures in existence of this universe has seen them. This universe's ones, so no, the Infinity Stones won't have a presence in the story. Keep leaving comments, I like hearing from you guys. The brown-haired girl had followed the green-haired boy after they left the school. Please, I am so sorry for costing you that much money. Ochako said. It wasn't you. It was the dipshits that went to the Prometheus school of running away from things. Izuku said, you were a civilian in danger. You say that like 7 million is worth less than a human life. Ochako said, I want to be a hero, but you give me 7 million to whack a guy, I'd seriously consider it. 7 million, I could go my entire life without working. All sentient life is worth living. Izuku said, very rarely would I be pushed to end a life. It isn't out of moral superiority or anything, my beliefs are just to lean with it. What belief is that? Ochako asked. Neural physics. Mei said, spooking Ochako. Hi, I'm 𝗵𝗲𝗵𝗲 of 𝗵𝗲𝗵𝗲 Incorporated. Mei said. I'm Ochako. Ochako said, "What is neural physics?" Living time. Izuku explained, "Picture the universe not as a single line. A baby is born, grows into an adult, grows old and dies. The universe is all these at once. Time exists as one singular moment and the collective of all people are merely the neurons of the universe." Sounds like that weird story about God telling an old man he was being reincarnated. Ochako said, "Well, that is similar, but that's not how time would be seen had our minds saw it." Izuku said, "Time isn't that linear that we'd have to reincarnate to perceive the world. The fact if the universe is aware of us is up for debate, but what it is for sure is all living species are neurons of one being. The interactions of species are the firing of those neurons." "So what about good and evil?" Ochako asked. "Free will exists. To completely abolish one side would be completely stupid." Izuku said, "The two forces are part of the same coins. Everyone creates the thing they dread. Men of peace create engines of war. Invaders create avengers. To attempt to force something that inhibits the free will of others always ends with exact opposite outcome." "So why are you being a hero?" Ochako asked. "Heroes are supposed to protect the ones that can't. All Might is actually a hindrance to the way a system should be." Izuku said, "Heroes are supposed to show up, stop something from escalating and leave. All Might is like the guy standing in a street shouting, 'Fight me.' His intentions are good, but enthusiasm is a double-edged sword." "So the fight is pointless?" Ochako asked. "No. We are the next generation. We have the power to make things right. And from what I can guess, we have something very bad coming." Izuku said, "The pendulum always swings back. The only way to stop the pendulum is stopping both sides." "So if the pendulum is coming back, that means a villain just as powerful as All Might will appear, correct?" Ochako asked. Izuku was quiet until he could finally speak. "The power of quirks means there's probably going to be one out there that bites humanity in the butt. Our choices are going to gauge how painful it is." They stopped for food and Izuku continued bringing them to a beach. "Why are we here?" Mei asked. "'Cause I'm a man of my word." Izuku said, "It doesn't matter if he shows up or not. I'm gonna stand here for at least an hour." Ochako looked around and they found a bench. "You know you're gonna look stupid if he doesn't show." "I'm a man of my word. I don't care if it's getting into a fight with All Might or challenging Nezu to a chess match. Lying is a waste of energy." Izuku said, "Do these pants make my butt look big?" Ochako asked, turning around. "Is my chest too big?" Mei asked, pushing her rack up. "No, your pants don't. I'd suggest picking out some that do. You got a lot of potential going to waste." Izuku said, "Mei, your tips are rockin'. If we had time this morning, we wouldn't have left the bed and Ochako would be dead right now." Ochako said. She hadn't planned for that. "Wow, from how tense you were this morning, I'd have thought that would turn you into a stuttering mess." Mei said. They turned to see the blue-haired boy standing there. He actually showed up. Both girls thought. "I am here to speak with you," Ida said before bowing 90 degrees. "Please accept my apologies." "Square up?" Izuku said. If that is what Ida had blinked and a fist had hit him in the face. Ida had blinked and a fist had hit him in the face. He went tumbling backwards and he looked up to see Izuku removing his shirt, and the black circle Izuku used so the light didn't show had surprised Ida. "What is that in your chest?" "A power pack for the 𝐻𝗔𝗍 build," Izuku said, walking over to him. Ida jumped up and got into a boxing stance. The first punch had landed on Izuku's jaw, but Ida could only feel his hand hurting. I wanted a gif of Peter Griffin hitting Liam Neeson with a metal tray and his hands hurting, or an Hercule Satan punching Android 18, but it wouldn't go to my phone. I wanted a gif of Peter Griffin hitting Liam Neeson with a metal tray and his hands hurting, or an Hercule Satan punching Android 18, but it wouldn't go to my phone. Ida tried to kick, but Izuku caught his leg and he was thrown over Izuku's head and slammed spine first onto the ground. "You're not quirkless, are you?" "Believe me, I've checked plenty of times." Izuku said, "I'm probably getting cancer in my foot before I'm old enough to drink." Ida had tried to kick, but an uppercut knocked him down. "A quirk wouldn't have gotten me nearly as much as I've done to myself," Izuku said, kicking Ida. I've begged God and the devil for one every birthday till Lucifer himself has told me he'd never give me anything. Ida and tried to use his quirk to sweep Izuku's legs. The face punch and the insult was not included. The face punch and the insult was not included. Ida had felt a foot on his chest. The thing kicking the SHT out of you is the monument to clawing my way to even have the right to stand where you do. I'm gonna be a hero. A quirk is irrelevant in the equation. Ida was helped up and spit out a tooth. Izuku discreetly took it and put it in his pocket. Ida had rubbed his chest. His skeleton was similar to a car, so it had crumple zones that made impacts less fatal. His ribs weren't nearly as tough as Katsumi's or Izuku's and would snap if enough force was applied. Ida's quirk is engine. He'd have to have some kind of secondary effects to his body. He has on record says. He has gears. Ida looked at the greenet and bowed again. Thank you for accepting my apology. I have underestimated your abilities. How are that strong? Ochako asked, holding his arm. Exercise and a few body augmentations. Izuku said. Augmentations? Ida asked. Izuku tapped his head with his knuckle and a tapping of metal was clear to the others. You're a cyborg? Ochako asked. Kinda. Izuku said. Line break. Izuku had called Mei over to Stark Industries. I wanted to ask if you could help with the latest version of my external plates. Izuku said. Yes. Mei said. Great, first I need you to look over a few of my newest inventions. Izuku said. They walked over to a table and Izuku handed Harem Star Viewer. Mei was definitely confused. Give it a look. Mei shrugged. Mei said. Keep going. Next slide. Izuku said. Mei had to zoom in to see the picture and then flipped to the next slide. Needles in each eye slot shot out and pierced Mei's eyes. A shooting pain shot through Mei's eyes for a few seconds before a numbing agent kicked in. She went blind for a minute, then blinked away the blackness. Her eyes are glowing like this. Mei looked and saw everything. She turned her eyes and the shake that normally happened when she looked around with her quirk had gone from a Michelle Bay movie to a near non-existent sway. Occipital capillary reversal. Izuku said, you don't have a blind spot in your eyes now. You also have an artificial tapetum lucidum made of a metamaterial. With the artificial lens your eyes should be even stronger now. The left is a standard mirror. The right is a metamaterial. Human eye, octopus eye with front-facing nerves, No blind spot. So now Izuku and Mei's eyes look like this. More of my photo editing. Mei blinked and smiled. I could get so much more work down with eyes like these. I also made you these since the new peepers need new windshields. Izuku said, opening a glasses case. I originally made these for myself and was gonna make you a pair, but then I remembered your style and made these instead. Izuku grabbed another box. They're perfect. Mei said, putting them on. The apertures narrowed as if they were an extension of her eyes. Closest GIF that would fit on this site. Izuku pulled out his phone and Mei got a notification. Run that app and hit the sync button. Izuku said. Can't find a GIF that's small enough, so here's a still image. Oh. Mei said as her brain was racing with possibilities and the HUD was changed with each thought. Neural control interface. Yep. Izuku said, it's also unlocked so you can upgrade as needed. Mei hugged him again. Plus, I also need to hire 𝐒𝐻𝗵𝗲 Incorporated for another collab with Stark Construction. Izuku said, I reached my image limit for this chapter, so sorry it isn't longer. Grant Uraraka got the call from his boss about a project at UA. Usually any of those were under Cementos iron grip. Or was it stone grip? Grant, good you're finally here. Izuku said, he was not happy from the sound of his voice. Dipshits, this is Grant Uraraka, head of Stark Construction. Grant the dipshits. Izuku said. Hello, Mr. Uriarika. Nezu said, completely ignoring the dipshit comment. What's going on? Grant asked. We're discussing the layout of the new dorms. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 said, rubbing his temple. Why are we even having this argument? I'm the school's contractor. Because I could build a better one. Izuku said. What you say, green bean? 𝗬𝗵𝗲 asked, growling. Bring it on, cinder block. Izuku said. Hey, let's calm down here. Grant said, can I see the blueprints? Izuku handed him a pair of glasses. Grant looked around before putting them on and the blueprints appeared on a hologram. Plus, I gotta get me one of these. Grant said as the blueprints appeared. Momo Yaoyorozu and Shoko Todoroki arrived with a moving trailer, owned by Momo's father's company. They had met before and the ponytailed girl was the first person Shoko had that could be qualified as a friend. More cars arrived. A SUV loaded with stuff and a muscle car with a minimal amount of stuff. A green-haired girl stepped out the SUV and a bleach blonde boy walked out the car. A green-haired girl stepped out the SUV and a bleach blonde boy walked out the car. What's going on? The green-haired girl asked when the gate was closed. What's going on? The green-haired girl asked when the gate was closed. Greetings, students. Nezu said, opening the gate. Sorry, we haven't inputted your biometrics for the students' entrance yet, so please forgive the inconvenience. Grant said as the blueprints appeared. Yes, it is Stark Tower but much shorter. Yes, it is Stark Tower but much shorter. It's the same height as Heights Alliance. How do I owe its brain controlled? Grant said. My design is better. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 shouted. Mine cost the same but could fit both classes. Izuku said. Mr. Uriarika. Nezu said politely, you are the deciding vote on them. How much room do you have? Grant asked. We already have the support class and Gen Ed buildings, so the only buildings left are the new first-year dorms. Nezu said, ordinarily we'd have the two class dorms separate, but Izuku does bring up a good point about the size to tech ratio. We could add more junk in the trunk if we make one building. Izuku said. But the classes need their own spaces. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 said. Grant's sweat dropped as the bolt of lightning had flashed between the concrete hero and his boss. At risk of losing my job dash, I pay you to design and build. You aren't gonna lose your job over an opinion. Izuku turned and pointed at Grant. I pay you to think. So think. I think the separation is a good idea. Grant said, I went to a college with low funding and I usually did my work in my room since the entire place was crowded. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 is right about that. Ah! 𝗬𝗵𝗲 shouted. But the improved systems also would be useful for the students. Grant said. Ah! Izuku shouted. Can I somehow neat? Grant said as the 3D hologram made a second file and he started adjusting it. How's this? How's this? One, it's even smaller than the first draft and there are two with the other one having a B on it. See this? This is what I pay you for. Izuku pointed to the hologram. I like it. 𝗬𝗵𝗲. Nezu said. Fine. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 said, crossing his arms. Mine was better anyway. Now onto the skeleton. Nezu said, snapping his paws, and the support beams appeared. My company will supply the spring steel I-beams. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 said. My company manufactures Damascus steel I-beams. We can get you better quality beams at the same price. Izuku said. You can get a face full of concrete, you 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐺. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 shouted as his quirk was starting. I'll turn you into gravel, you square-headed pages. Izuku said as his food was heard charging. Now. Nezu said, I believe the Damascus beams would be preferable if they are equal price. Now let's talk windows. Polycarbonate. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 said. Aluminium oxynitride can be much cheaper and lighter. Izuku said. Grant and Nezu both sighed. This could take a while. Grant said. Nezu asked. Yes, please. Grant said. Line break. After more discussion, they settled on the materials which had lowered the cost. So how'd you get this project? Grant asked. I owe Nezu about 14 million for reasons above your pay grade. Izuku said. If you owe him that way, are you trying to use less money for this? Grant asked. Grant, I'm gonna tell you this once about my company. Izuku said, "We aren't gonna win by being fast. There are hundreds of quirks that can get our job done before we even get there. Stark construction is about quality and price. Never forget this. You are selling people something and your job is to get them a price that justifies our customers choosing us, not the other jerks. We can mine and manufacture our own SHT, so everything Stark is as much savings as we can pass to our customers." The faint glow in his boss's eyes had put a bolt of fear in the man. "You understood, boss. I'm not sorry for being abrasive, but you know what happens when you try to fight quirked businesses with speed." Izuku said, "You get left in the dust. Ain't that the truth?" Grant said. He had attempted to compete like every other company and failed miserably. They made it to the zone and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 already dug the hole using his quirk. The truck had arrived with the beams and Izuku walked over. "All right, let's get this done. A kid we might wanna dash," 𝗵𝗲𝗄 started, but Izuku had lifted it without much difficulty. "A kid we might wanna dash," 𝗵𝗲𝗄 started, but Izuku had lifted it without much difficulty. He's using both hands right now. Stark steel. Harder, better, cheaper and stronger than the competition. Izuku said, tossing the beam into the air and catching it. The beam still weighs about 500 pounds, but an equal beam of structural steel is about 2,000. He started kicking it like a hacky sack and the two had stood there with their jaws dropped. "That's quite impressive, but we are on a schedule." Nezu said, not fazed. "Heads up," Izuku said, throwing it to Grant. He had screamed and immediately used his quirk when it had made contact. I'm sorry, I dash. Under the quirk LBR Law 341-6, collaboration projects legalize quirk use if one party has a quirk license," Izuku said, smirking as he pointed to 𝗵𝗲𝗄. Grant looked to the contractor hero and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 nodded. Grant smiled and said, "Throw me one more." "Coming up," Izuku said, kicking one up and palm thrusting it to him. Grant had gotten to 3 before a trickle of puke came out his mouth. "Sorry boss, my limit is about 1.5 tons before I start puking. My daughter can lift 3 tons without breaking a sweat." "No prob, man," Izuku said before his gauntlets activated. "Let's build some SHT." Hours later, the 4 and 2 of the employees that brought the beams all got the frame done with Grant floating the beams, Izuku holding them in place while flying. The 2 employees, one that had a heat quirk that was basically a arc welder in his fingers and was happy for the chance to do his job with it, and Nezu standing around observing and making conversation. "Boss, I was wondering if your Iron Man, aren't you worried about vigilante laws?" Grant asked. Iron Man has only ever acted in defense of his immediate loved ones. Nezu said, "The girl attacked last year was his childhood friend and putting out a fire falls under the Good Samaritan laws." "What about that plane?" Grant asked. "Not me," Izuku said, holding up his hands. He lowered his voice. "I think it's actually All Might in that Iron Liberty guy." "How do you not know?" Grant asked. "I too am also curious." 𝗵𝗲𝗄 said. "I made it for Nezu and told him give it to whoever the F he thought wouldn't use it for evil." Izuku said, "You realize All Might hasn't been seen in what, almost a year? He was practicing with the suit. He probably has some kind of injury preventing him from using his quirk." 𝗵𝗲𝗄 said, raising a finger in a motion. "Hey gentlemen," a voice said. Midnight walked out with a cooler. Midnight walked out with a cooler. "Namuri, what are you doing here?" 𝗵𝗲𝗄 said. "Paperwork's a pain and I wanted to offer a drink to the eye candy." Midnight said, "Anyone want a drink?" "Yes, ma'am," Grant said. "First a little eye candy for mama," Midnight said, smirking. Grant really wanted the water, so took his shirt off. Midnight threw a bottle to him and he put his shirt back on. Midnight threw a bottle to him and he put his shirt back on. "Come one brick house, show the lady something," Izuku said. 𝗵𝗲𝗄 sighed. Midnight did this before, but he always was embarrassed about it. "I don't know how to change an image's color in Polish." Midnight winked and tossed a water bottle. "What about you, broccoli head?" 𝗵𝗲𝗄 said. Turning to Izuku. Izuku smirked. After a quick dance he ripped his shirt off and winked at Midnight. After a quick dance he ripped his shirt off and winked at Midnight. After a quick dance he ripped his shirt off and winked at Midnight. Mama like, mama like." Midnight said, pulling out a sports drink. Nomiuri, please keep it in your pants until my new buildings are done. Nezu said. The line between humans and beast definitely blurred when the other sexes interacted. He thought, shaking his head, sometimes I'm glad the only one of my kind. We just need to lift this and align it with the base. Izuku said, how we lookin', Jarvis? Building structure shows no sign of misalignment. Jarvis said from the speaker of Izuku's phone. Izuku got to the lowest middle cross beam and repulsored up. Little to the left. Cementos said. Izuku did, and the frame was put in place. Next week, Building B Izuku had been called to help with the final pieces of the install of the more stark pieces in the finished buildings. Izuku had been called to help with the final pieces of the install of the more stark pieces in the finished buildings. Izuku had to install the smart home system basically on his own since Grant wasn't taught about it yet. Jarvis, you there? Izuku asked. Sorry, sir, but I have to finish encrypting the home system. Jarvis said. You do what you gotta do. Yawn, I'm gonna. Izuku collapsed on the couch with his laptop on the coffee table. Rest well, sir. Jarvis said. Jarvis said Momo Yaoyorozu and Shoko Todoroki arrived with a moving trailer, owned by Momo's father's company. They had met before, and the ponytailed girl was the first person Shoko had that could be qualified as a friend. More cars arrived. A SUV loaded with stuff and a muscle car with a minimal amount of stuff. A green-haired girl stepped out the SUV and a bleach-blonde boy walked out the car. A green-haired girl stepped out the SUV and a bleach-blonde boy walked out the car. What's going on? The green-haired girl asked when the gate was closed. What's going on? The green-haired girl asked when the gate was closed. Greetings, students. Nezu said, opening the gate. Sorry we haven't inputted your biometrics for the students' entrance yet, so please forgive the inconvenience. It's fine. Juzo Hananuki said. Right this way, please. Nezu said. The closest building was the B building. The parking is around back farther down, but the dorms are each a 5-minute walk from the main building. They entered the building and students all liked the room. This is Class 1B dorms. Each has a personal server and high-bandwidth internet. The dorms are personal climate and are allowed to be customized to the students' liking. Sweet. Tokage Setsuna said, her head floating off and looking around before seeing a lump on the couch. Someone's on the couch. It appears our IT guy fell asleep. Sir has decided to rest while I internalized with the Stark smart home system. Jarvis said. The heck is that? Juzo asked. Hello, I am Jarvis. I will be your personal home interferer to assist you with your new smart home system. Jarvis said, we got a robot butler. Tokage exclaimed. No wonder this place doesn't allow students to buy their way in here. Momo said, putting a hand to her mouth. Hi, Jarvis. Shoko said. Welcome, Miss Todoroki. Jarvis said. You've met? Momo asked. Yeah, Midoriya made him. Todoroki said. Izuku. Time to wake up. Nezu said. Jarvis snooze. Izuku responded, turning over. Negative, sir. Schedule doesn't have enough grace PRD for a longer nap. Jarvis said. Izuku rolled onto his back and his nose picked something up and he opened his eyes. In front of him was a floating head of a green-haired girl with pointed teeth. In front of him was a floating head of a green-haired girl with pointed teeth. Hey. Tokage said. Izuku blinked and his hands started feeling around for the rest of her, mainly around his pelvic area. If you're looking for but it's over there. She said, nodding her head towards the entrance. Izuku stood up and stretched. All right. Jarvis, you there? Fully integrated, sir. Open house protocol ready. Jarvis said. Okay, let's start the tour. Izuku said. Before we do that, Tokage said, could you let me go? Izuku realized his hand was still on her head and it was currently being held by him. Oh, sorry. He let her go. Man, your quirk would be awesome in bed. I could hit it from the back and make out at the same time. Yeah, it's also useful when I want to dash. A loud clearing of a throat interrupted them. I think we should actually get to the tour before anyone decides to get it on. Juzo said, I really don't feel like watching a XXX throw down to be my first experience in this school. Your loss. Izuku and 𝗬𝗪𝐁 said at once. Line break. Izuku showed them to the dorms. Each dorm has a private bathroom with a full-body air dryer. Smart mirror with hygiene tracker and style router. Smart mirror with hygiene tracker and style router. Only one sink. Only one sink. What's a style router? Momo asked. Izuku waved her over and told her to tap the button. Izuku waved her over and told her to tap the button. The mirror shuffled through a few hairstyles available with Momo's existing hair length. This could save so much time. Momo said, usually I just put it up to save time. Wall dispenser for shampoo and body wash. Flip up space for your hair care products and a second one for anything else. Antibacterial waters sealed to prevent mold and water damage. They entered the bedroom and Izuku snapped his fingers twice. The glass wall tinted black, then gray, then went full clear. The lights are voice activated and programmed to activate from dim to headlights so you can wake up without being blinded. Internal stereo speakers that connect to all your favorite devices. Kitchen. Dishwasher cupboard. Jarvis keeps track of food so you'll be notified of stuff about to go rotten. Izuku said. That entire rectangle is the TV. He lead them into the living room. That entire rectangle is the TV. He lead them into the living room. And the Stark Smart Sand table. It looks like this, but the light blue are sand-sized LEDs, not light. It looks like this, but the light blue are sand-sized LEDs, not light. Wicked. 𝗬𝗪𝐁 said. How much did this cost? Shoko asked. The table or the building? Izuku asked. That table. Shoko said. No more than 10 grand for all of it. This is the higher-end version. Izuku said, the system uses my smart dust to build interactive shapes. Demonstrating with Lego bricks forming and Izuku building a tower. Welcome to UA and thank you for choosing Stark. Izuku said. Please help the new students move in. Izuku. You can go home afterwards. Nezu said, Juzo Hananuki and Tokisetsuna are in 1B. Momo Yaoyorozu and Shoko Todoroki are in 1. Good night. Before walking off. Wait, why are you going home? Juzo asked. I'm still waiting on my letter. Izuku said. So you aren't part of the staff? Momo asked. I'm just a guy trying to join UA who just happens to build neat things that others want to buy. Izuku said, I've also worked for every dollar I currently own and am not being paid by the hour, so let's get to unpacking. After everyone finished unpacking and Izuku helping Shoko with the hardwood floors, Izuku was tipped by each of them. Line break. The recommendation students had dinner in the B dorms and Izuku had finished his job with minimal conversation and left with a nod. So Shoko, you told me about him, but I never got a clear picture of him the way you explained him. Momo said. His picture is in the news. He was at my father's Christmas party. Shoko said. He really is trying for the hero course. Juzo asked. Yeah. Shoko said. Gotta respect a guy with the ball to try for the hero course. Quirkless. 𝗬𝗪𝐁 said, I hope he gets our class. I wouldn't mind him getting into class 1A, Momo said. I don't think Midoriya cares as long as he gets to join on his own merit. Shoko said, I considered trying on my own, but I didn't think I should. Yeah, my father said my quirk could actually make it unfair for the other entries. Momo said. Juzo said. Line break. Izuku had stopped at Mei's to work on the new plates. Mei got in the support course. She had built a grapple gun with the materials and ended the class with a demonstration of her satellite. My babies are gonna be glorious. Izuku was glad she got in. He got home and his mother was sleeping on the couch with a letter. Izuku took it, covered her with the couch blanket, and headed to his room. Izuku opened the envelope and the hologram of All Might congratulating him and revealing his score. 50 villain points, 100 on the rescue points, and 100% on the written test. Videos showed his speech to the crowd and another showed the purple-haired student he was talking to. The video was from a security camera and the speech about actually trying had gained him the 100. Heroes are supposed to work together. UA can't just ignore that kind of motivation. All Might said. Izuku closed his eyes and smiled. A phone rang and Izuku answered. Katsumi shouted. How can I help you? Izuku said. Katsumi shouted. Izuku plugged his phone into the hologram and sent it. He stayed on the phone and she had hung up when he heard the last line. Katsumi rescue points. Katsumi shouted after she hung up. It's a hero school. Of course they're gonna have that. Angel Katsumi shouted. Katsumi had thought back through the years. From the day she got her quirk, Deku had said he'd be a hero. He had been given a genetic lemon and still thought he could. But that speech wasn't running on hope, he had a plan. Congrats on the highest villain points. Izuku said. Katsumi had scored 158 on the villain points. She had run out of bots to smash. What? How did you get 50 villain points? Katsumi asked. I built a gun out of the pieces of the robots and was walking through the streets blasting him. Izuku said. Katsumi had thought back to the times where the other students at their high school had thought Deku would snap one day and attack the school. You really got in, Katsumi said. Izuku said. Katsumi had hung up and put her head on her desk. Next day Izuku had packed up his clothes into a duffel bag and his laptop into his backpack. His collectible would require an actual moving truck, but he could get the necessities there on his own. Inko was at work, so there wasn't a tearful goodbye as he stepped outside in his armor. Izuku lifted off and headed to UA. It's ready, Izuku said, walking into Nezu's office. Standing there were two teachers. Present Mike and another power loader. 𝗲𝗵𝗲 Iron Man, power loader said, jumping out his seat. 𝗲𝗵𝗲 Iron Man, power loader said, jumping out his seat. Izuku helmet retracted. The shocked look from the support teacher was ignored as Present Mike gave a laid-back, Yo. Midoriya, what can I do for you? Nezu said, crossing his hands. You aren't surprised that F-Thing just walked in and it's one of our students? Power loader asked. Izuku walked over to Nezu's desk with a long box. This Izuku put a hand over it before Nezu could open it. Nezu, this is the heart of Stark Industries. I will say with 100% certainty, if this has ever got into someone's hands and they got it from the school, I don't care how or why. The hand was denting the case. The eyes staring back at the principal were that of fear. I'm a man of my word, Midoriya. Nezu said, all your requested prerequisites have been set up and only my biometrics will get within seeing distance of it. Izuku breathed and opened the case. Power loader was looking over anxiously, trying to see what it was, while Present Mike was just curious. Metal circles sat on velvet lining. A wooden box was also in the case. Power loader looked and asked, what are they? Miniaturized arc reactors. I've got a big one running my factory and there's one in my chest and May's satellite. Izuku said. Wait, this is a nuclear reactor. Power loader shouted, and May put one in space. Well, me and May put it up there. It was her design, but why waste material building a rocket? Izuku said. Where did you get this? Power loader shouted. I built them. Izuku said, did you not hear me say I have a big one in my factory? Wait, you're that kid from Endeavor's party. Power loader said, I missed that cause I was sick, but I saw the news about a kid who was getting autographs all over like a lunatic. Izuku Midoriya. First-year hero student, CEO and founder of Stark Industries. Izuku said, holding out a hand to shake. Power loader was too shocked to shake the hand. You built that suit and you're not in my class. Stark Industries will not create support gear of any kind. Izuku and Nezu said in unison. I've asked him. Nezu said, I've even suggested a double major, but his goals are hero first and foremost. Nice to meet you, dude. Voice hero, Present Mike, and I'm the advanced writing and literature professor. Present Mike shook his hand. Power loader reached for a reactor, but Nezu slapped the hand. Under the contract with Stark Industries, I'm not allowed to let others touch these. Nezu said. Izuku opened the second box and inside was 4 cartridges of palladium. Each cartridge of palladium lasts 10 years if running at peak. Izuku said. Really wanted a gif of Tony replacing it. Power loader had imagined what this could power. How much does one of these cost? 2F much. Nezu said, I think you understand the importance of keeping this quiet, gentleman. You got it, boss. Mike said, snapping his fingers and pointing. Power Loader was taking a deep breath, trying to get his mind about what was going on. Nezu had led Izuku to a hidden location in the school and he had plugged in the reactors. 5 million left in your debit. Izuku said. I think I'll cash that later on. Nezu said, smiling as they headed out. So, any tips for future investments? Well, I have been working on a few out-of-country projects that will be launch-ready soon. A little computer project, and a few small projects. But for the moment I think my current equipment is at a functional level. Izuku said. We'll get some rest. For your first day. Nezu said, smiling. Izuku had made it to the dorms by the time the others were already going to bed, so he just went to sleep. Next morning 𝐈𝐴𝑤𝐴 woke up as he did most days. Eyes dry as sandpaper and tired as hell. He fed his cats, showered and looked at his files on the students. Endeavor's youngest, the Yaoyorozu daughter, they were all expected and the rest had seemed normal. Translation, not as SHT as his last class. His final file had the green-haired kid. Izuku Midoriya. Quirk, none. Aizawa had been the most curious about this one. His test scores were perfect. His little stunt during the entrance test had turned heads, but when the 0-pointer had gotten too close to a student for comfort, he had revealed something. The boy had to have a quirk. He was probably just pretending to make himself look better. Aizawa planned to keep an eye on the kid. The fact Nezu had showed up to the testing ground to speak with him had set off a few flags. What is your game? Aizawa thought, sipping his jelly pouch. Aizawa decided to pull up the video feed from him moving in and after a few tries found a perfect frame of Izuku that had him looking at the security camera for a second. This was taken a few days ago. Aizawa looked between the picture of Izuku and his cat laying on the cat tree. Aizawa looked between the picture of Izuku and his cat laying on the cat tree. Both eyes glowing exactly the same. Cat eyes. Enhanced reflexes. Flight. Aizawa had started to go through security of the school and found Izuku had been to UA with a surprising frequency. They had to bring him and All Might in an ambulance. No one seemed to have ever run into him when he came in. Only Nezu had access to his own cameras and Chiyo only allowed cameras for remote monitoring her patients. The security footage of Midoriya arguing with Cementos was definitely confusing. Plus, Stark Industries. Aizawa was going over his notes. Midoriya's company built the new buildings. Stark Industries was actually an umbrella corp for other businesses. Is this kid a lab experiment? Aizawa asked. The dance for midnight had shown a bright light in his chest that Aizawa had blinked. Chest light. Aizawa ran a hand through his hair. All Might. The stench of the old jacket was a refreshing smell from the paperwork of the last 2 weeks. The stench of the old jacket was a refreshing smell from the paperwork of the last 2 weeks. Good, since you have everything finished, I have one more thing for you. Nezu said. Is it more paperwork? Toshi asked. Nezu said. Praise the Lord. All Might said. Nezu tapped a button on a remote and his closet opened. Nezu tapped a button on a remote and his closet opened, a retirement present from our mutual friend. Nezu said. All Might jaw hit the floor. Isis this. The world needs its number one, but since Midoriya is inheriting that mantle and All Might's but is mine for 10 years minimum. Iron Liberty will be your new name in life. It's glorious. All Might said, putting a hand on it. The American half of his BLD was crawling. All firearms are currently loaded with slam rounds since Midoriya hasn't trained you to pilot this yet. Nezu said, you want to take it for a test flight? Yes. Field Aizawa had looked at the lineup and said, Midoriya. Yes, sensei. Izuku asked. Your file says you're quirkless. Aizawa said. Yes it does, sir, but I don't expect any special treatment. Izuku said. Then do this barefoot. Aizawa said. Izuku nodded and headed to the bleachers. Bakuga, you got first in destruction. What was your record throw in high school? 140 yards. Bakuga said. Try it with your quirk. Aizawa said, throwing over a ball. I'll put a little heat on it and really drop their jaws. Katsumi thought. Aizawa held up the device, 2,000 yards. You're here to become the next heroes. You can't do that without knowing your limits. Aizawa said. We get to use our quirk. This is gonna be fun. You wanna have fun. Last place gets expelled, you wanna have fun. Last place gets expelled. Aizawa said. What? That's not far. Life isn't far. A voice said. Izuku rejoined the group. It doesn't matter if you're born blind, without legs or quirkless. Life doesn't give a SHT about you and you won't get anywhere unless you put some effort into it. He said. Aizawa looked over and saw his shoes on the bleachers. So he's still going with this quirkless thing. Aizawa thought. Time skip Izuku had done well. Better than a majority, but Aizawa was still not convinced. It came to the ball toss. Okay, I've seen enough. Aizawa said. Aizawa sent out the scarf and Izuku caught it. Aizawa sent out the scarf and Izuku caught it. A yank toward the boy had brought the teacher into a headbutt. Wanna tell me why you're stopping me? Izuku asked. Aizawa had just stood there glaring. You're not quirkless, are you? I don't have a quirk. Izuku said. Then explain this. Aizawa said, pulling down his shirt. Izuku grabbed the covered reactor and pulled it out. It's an implant. A lot of the class gasped. I don't have what 90% of the world has. But here's the thing about that. I'm not crying about it. I've cried the river, I've built the bridge, and I won't cry about it again. Izuku said. Do you really think you can stand with people who can lift buildings, shoot fire, and move things with their minds? Aizawa asked. What makes you think you can stand with the heroes? Because I know I can. Izuku said. And what makes you think that, Deku? Katsumi said. Aizawa had realized that literally meant useless, and the file did say those two went to the same school. What makes you think you're good enough to stay here? Aizawa asked. I am a survivor of childhood abuse. I am a certified genius. I am a certified genius. I am a patriot, a teacher, a lover, a brother, a soulmate. I am a patriot, a teacher, a lover, a brother, a soulmate. I am loyal to my very core. I am loyal to my very core. I do not whine, pout, or throw tantrums if I don't get my own way. I don't babble constantly. I am often still and quiet. However, I have suffered from my own demons and I have a habit of muttering which I try hard to keep in check. I don't cheat. I don't cheat. I can take the L when I don't win. I am 100% committed to my convictions. I know how to fire a gun. I am fluent in several languages. I feel as much as the next person. If you cut me, I will bleed. If you cut me, I will bleed. I am not a cartoon cutout and I'm not made of stone. I am quirkless and I have had that fact hammered into me by many. I am quirkless and I have had that fact hammered into me by many. Izuku's eyes shifted to Bakugo for a few seconds. Many people, more times than I can count. I have done things that you won't believe. I have done things that you won't believe. Seen things you can't begin to comprehend. Seen things you can't begin to comprehend. I don't need to be protected. I have been swimming with sharks since I was a child. I don't need to be protected. I have been swimming with sharks since I was a child. I am a brilliant tactician and I know my faults to the depth of my soul. I will protect my family and those loved to my last breath. My name is 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗲 𝗔𝗂𝘁. My name is 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗲 𝗔𝗂𝘁. I am founder of Stark Industries. A student of UA College of Heroes. I've done things to myself just to stand before you. Izuku said, I deserve to stand here and prove I belong. I don't want an easy pass. I don't expect things to always go my way. I've been kicked my entire life and I can respond in kind. So, sir. Yes, I deserve to stand here and I'd like to throw the ball now. Aizawa handed Izuku the ball and Izuku put the reactor in his hand. Later the scores were totaled. Izuku scored high but not first. Oh, it was all a lie. Aizawa said. The rest of the class were freaking out. You really thought he'd kick someone out? Momo said. He booted his entire class last year cause he didn't think they had it in them. Izuku said. Midoriya is correct, Yaoyorozu. Don't ever take me for a joke. Aizawa said, taking a few eye drops. Midoriya, do you have any other augmentations? Yes. Izuku said, none that would count as more than a standard human. You're fast enough to keep up with Ida. Standard as them, not Deku's. Izuku pointed to the class. Also, why are you using that word? Aizawa asked. 'Cause somebody, Izuku said, figured out the kanji for my name could be shortened to Deku, useless just like the rest of the leftovers from the time the human race would better off forget. The red-eyed blonde was looking Midoriya, and I would add that to the file. Well, please refrain from calling quirkless people that. Better than what they call other places. Izuku shrugged. What do they call them? Ochako asked. Organ farms. Izuku said, getting shocked looks. You guys do know I'm legally not a person in China, Mexico and Germany. Wait, what? Katsumi shouted. Yeah, Katsumi, you didn't know that quirkless homes are glorified organ farms. Why do you think your mother had a contract to adopt me if my parents die? Any orphanage that gets a quirkless are most likely black market organ harvesting. Izuku said. I didn't know people didn't like the quirkless that bad. The kid with a lightning bolt said. Don't Google quirkless in China. If you want any sleep. Izuku said, walking to the locker room. Aizawa grabbed his phone and contacted his agency. He'd have to actually look into this. All Might had heard Aizawa talking about the investigation on the orphanages. Oh, you didn't know? All Might asked. Yeah, quirkless kids are basically treated as dogs till they're 14 or so, and then they're gutted for useful stuff, and then the bodies are disposed of. And we're not stopping this? Aizawa asked. Kinda difficult when they just pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and do it again. All Might said, I remember kids mocking me about that's where I'd go if my mother died. You think the population got like this cause people with quirks F better? We may be mammals, but the thing that gets rid of a population is hatred and xenophobia. Aizawa was rubbing his head. How did I not know this? 'Cause it's only ever brought up on election years. A politician claims they'll end this problem just like homelessness or poverty or another thing they have no control of. All Might said, then when all the fees are pulled that they get into office. People collectively forget about it till it comes up. Aizawa sipped his juice pouch. He had to do something. Class 1A dorms. Izuku was going over his latest goals for his company. His suit was at a level he honestly didn't need to upgrade. His speech did bring up his longing to start his space colonization. What cha doin'? A voice in his ear said. Just working on my space colony project. Just working on my space colony project. I think the asteroid harvesting mission is almost ready for launch. Izuku said. Like as in those giant rocks in space. She said. Yeah. Izuku said, I'm Izuku by the way. Toru Hagakure. She said, you missed the introductions yesterday night. I was working on some business with Nezu. Izuku said, are you really the founder of Stark Industries? Toru asked. Yes. Izuku said, so why do you want to go into space? Toru asked. 'Cause no one else is. Izuku said, no one is even looking beyond our biosphere, and it's so frustrating. We have so much available and we're ignoring it. So what are we gonna live on Mars one day? A pink-skinned girl asked, sitting next to Izuku on the couch with bowls of snacks. I could be a legit alien queen. Well, more like we're gonna completely gut Mars for its resources and build millions of habitats. Izuku said, but the rotating habitats could be the size of continent Soya. You could be a queen. Wait, couldn't you just make Mars like Earth? Ochako asked, walking over. Also, how do I register as a potential space queen? Very wasteful thinking. Izuku said. You don't find a mountain to live in, a cave you mine it to build hundreds of thousands of homes. A planet isn't a home, it's a hardware store with supplies. So what would it be like in space? The pink girl asked. Izuku picked up a soda can. About this essentially. Izuku said, the first major one is gonna be floating at the L4 or L5 Lagrange point. M1 is Earth, M1 is Earth. M2 is the Moon. The points are areas where things can be locked in place without rocket assistance. L4 and L5 have the largest wiggle room. Seriously, what should I be doing to get rich from your company? Ochako asked, I want to be space royalty. Well, honestly, if you buy Stark stock is preparing to split. For a $1,000 you'd have about 10 shares if you buy right now. Izuku said, looking up using his glasses to check the current stock value. He looked down and saw Ochako pointing a fork at Momo. 𝐒𝐭𝐻 just met between $1,000. She shouted very quickly. Momo just looked at her and pulled out her phone, Sure, what's your banking number? I'll wire you 10 grand. Momo said, pulling out her cell phone. I might buy 500 shares myself. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 dropped her fork. You have enough to do that. Yeah, my parents had me learning to budget and invest to learn math when I was young. I've been saving half my allowance every day for 15 years. Momo said, showing her banking app. Mother said the stock market can be a puppet if you know what's gonna happen. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 had started whimpering. I don't have a smartphone. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 had said, falling to her knees. Izuku reached into his pocket and was holding out his phone at the same time Momo had pulled one out her hip with her quirk. Izuku reached into his pocket and was holding out his phone at the same time Momo had pulled one out her hip with her quirk. What phone is that? 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 asked, looking at the one Izuku had. The Stark Slate. This little baby drops near Christmas. Izuku said, I can get another if I need to. Momo asked to see it and Izuku explained what it was. Graphene carbon nanotube screen with titanium body and Stark 6.1G antenna. 8K images and 2 terabytes of space. Momo tried to make a copy and Izuku took the copy, loading the OS from his phone and his stuff before giving 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 the original. You're just giving this to me? 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 asked. I have a factory full of making more every day. I'm giving a student discount to everyone anyway. Call it a PR giveaway. Izuku said. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 was flipping through loading the right things while the others sitting around the couch were busy on their phones trading stock. What's going on? Ribbit? A green-haired girl said, walking in. Katsumi was walking in, headed to the kitchen, as was Shoko. Buy Stark stock. Mina said. That's Deku's company, right? Katsumi said, walking over. Yeah, we're building our second nuclear reactor within the month and the new phone drops around Christmas. Izuku said. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 showed her and she looked at it. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 showed her and she looked at it. This is 𝗎𝗪𝗏 reaction, not Izuku. Percent charged. Katsumi looked at it and blasted it again. Not a scratch. Percent charged, pressure charging. Izuku said with a SHT-eating grin. All Might could slap this without leaving a dent. Katsumi mouth opened. The hell is this made of? Pure willpower. Izuku said dramatically. Katsumi groaned and said, here's your diamond phone. Throwing it with an explosion. Percent charged and it bounced back and hit her in the nose. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 caught it while Izuku had got up to check if Katsumi was all right. It looks okay. Izuku said after checking it for a few minutes. Katsumi, that thing was made with you in particular. That thing can charge with kinetic impacts, /fire/ and electrical discharge. It's literally a phone that can charge with quirks or someone throwing a hiss fit. It's okay, sweetie. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 was talking to the phone. It was most likely the most expensive thing she owned. You got a lot of nerve, JRK. Katsumi. Izuku said sternly. What do you say? Katsumi had felt as if her mother was standing in the room, pissed as hell, but it was coming from Deku of all people. I'm sorry I blew up your shitty phone. Katsumi said. Apology accepted. 𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲 said. When did you start a company? Katsumi asked. Around the time I started tinkering with machines. Izuku said. Katsumi looked at Izuku's chest and put a hand on it. The circle underneath was almost purring as it pulled. When did this get put in? Almost a year ago. Izuku said, along with noise-dampening cochlea implants, a tungsten foam over my skeleton and an electropoly weave on my heart. Katsumi had raised her hand and felt his face, and her hand could feel some of the device. As she looked into his eyes, she had saw the reflected light. What happened to your eyes? I flipped the light-recepting nerves in my eyes and added a film of metamaterial. I have no blind spot and I have the night vision of a cat. Including a high-tech artificial lens, I could see better than anyone without a vision-enhancing quirk. Izuku said. Katsumi's head had moved to his shoulder and felt his arm. When did you get jacked? A red-haired boy with pointed teeth said, who had walked in a few minutes ago. Gene therapy. Izuku said, lying to prevent Extremis's full-body upgrade being revealed. The prion in my body, instead of making larger muscles, I have more, and they constrict faster than a regular human. Pair that with an electroative body conduits, I can lift a tank unassisted. You know how electricity can send you flying? He's basically saying that's what makes him so strong. Katsumi's eyes turned to pinholes. "Soya, I think I've done a lot in these past few months." Izuku said. "How exactly is that legal?" Mina asked. "I'm quirkless. We're literally faster and easier to be cleared for medical testing than lab monkeys." Izuku said. Katsumi had looked into it. Everything Izuku said about quirkless people in certain countries was true. Some countries even had quirkless sanctuary cities like Gotham City. Looking back, she thought about how she treated Deku. She started as just the way she usually treated him, but then when the rest of their basically entire school life everyone joined it. It was actually surprising when Katsumi looked back and was floored when she asked the extras why they acted like they did. "He's quirkless," was the answer from everyone. She remembered when Deku fought back. Back during middle school he had tried to defend himself, but the teachers always took the extras' side. "I'm a 𝐎𝐸𝐽𝐻," Katsumi thought as Izuku had moved to start cooking dinner for everyone. Flashback: Izuku, Katsumi and the extras that followed her were all around 5 or so. Katsumi had gotten her quirk a few months ago. They had gotten bored of heroes and villains and moved to knights and princesses. Katsumi had made Izuku the prince and her and the others knights. She didn't want to be a princess. Deku was fine with being a prince, but some reason the way he just accepted it was some reason infuriating. Izuku was a knight to her. His personality and general attitude towards life, always smiling even when it hurt. It just got to her for some reason. When they were trespassing and crossing that bridge, she fell off, and when she looked up she saw Izuku offering his hand to her. When they were trespassing and crossing that bridge, she fell off, and when she looked up she saw Izuku offering his hand to her. "I don't need your help, Deku." Katsumi screamed, slapping his hand away. "You can have it if you want." Izuku responded. That smile on his face. That DMN smile. Flashback: end. Katsumi's room when her quirk first started. Izuku was doing a bunch of weird SHT for her. He gave her a headband with cat ears around the time her quirk started hurting her ears. The headband squeezed her head, but her mother had made her wear it for some reason. She always wore a headband out of habit. Izuku randomly one day started giving her a pair of sunglasses. She had wore them for a few months, but it just stopped. Izuku seemed to know something she didn't, and it annoyed her. Something changed when they came back for senior year. Izuku had just flipped. His personality was different. He was still smiling, but he wasn't just ducking when attacked, he was swinging back and knew how to. He had read his notebook to the class, and Katsumi realized he had to rewrite every notebook she burned from memory, so he basically had an encyclopedia of quirk facts and all the SHT he wrote about. She had noticed it wasn't hero analysis for the future anymore, it was anarchist quirk book. With the anarchy symbol. This book was a multi-subject binder instead of a single. His entire life's work of notebooks was in a single book. Looking at the SHT, he says it was scary. Izuku was a sleeping monster when it came to the things in that notebook. Why hadn't she ever read it again? Izuku had the ability to be a villain. Hell, half the anime and manga she read had the villain being someone from the hero's past. Katsumi hadn't realized until now Deku wasn't stupid. Well, she knew he was a nerd, but the fact he wanted to be a hero had kinda blinded her to the fact there were other methods to be a hero. What exactly was her goal with Deku? I mean, if he didn't get into UA, he'd try somewhere else. If he couldn't be a hero, he'd try to find a way to at least join something to help people. She vaguely remembered a plan to start a hero agency and let Deku join that, but some reason that kinda got buried under what was it exactly that got her so mad. Katsumi sighed and decided she was gonna sleep until she actually talked to Deku. She got out of bed and walked to Deku's room. After knocking, she was greeted by Deku kicking something and opening the door. "Were you asleep?" Katsumi asked. "No, just working on something." Izuku said. "We need to talk." Katsumi said. Izuku closed his door and leaned against it. His mouth a straight line and his arms crossed. "What happened?" Katsumi asked. "I grew up." Izuku said. "I meant to us." Katsumi said. "We were friends and we are friends, Katsumi." Izuku said. "I treat you like a," Katsumi said before looking around. "Doors are soundproof, make as much noise as you want. They have a sensor so if someone knocks they can hear, but no one can hear anything." Izuku said. "Also everyone treats me like SHT Katsumi." "But that's the thing. Why have you never done anything about it? 𝗏𝗧𝗵𝗲 asked, you're bigger than me and you're not afraid of a little pain, so haven't you ever tried to deck me or fought back? I fought back in senior year. Izuku said. I meant earlier. 𝗏𝗧𝗵𝗲 said. 'Cause I didn't really care. Izuku said, why do I care if 7 million voices thing? I don't have what it takes to make it as a hero. It doesn't matter what extras think. That was a quote 𝗏𝗧𝗵𝗲 had said in middle school. Do you remember when we were little and I fell in the river? 𝗏𝗧𝗵𝗲 asked. Yeah. Izuku said. Why did you try to help me? 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 asked. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 I don't like being hateful. I don't like getting angry. The world has enough malevolence and Captain Save-a-Hose. I treat people as I want to be treated. Izuku said, chivalry, romance or attraction has no hand in it. I've spent my life just shrugging off the pain and insults 'cause I knew it didn't matter. I'd become a hero through training, studying and busting my butt to even stand a chance. Why did you accept being a prince? 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 asked. You were always the villain or the prince when we played as kids. 'Cause you wanted to be a knight. Izuku said, shrugging. I think the prince is a good description of what I was back then. How is that? She asked, narrowing her eyes. 'Cause everyone thinks the prince is a jackass riding the coattails of his parents and only gets what he has 'cause he was born the way he was, when in actuality they spend a majority of their time being trained to take the king's place. Izuku said, I got kicked my entire life 'cause I was quirkless. I look like I didn't try much when in actuality I was spending all my time studying and preparing for UA. Princes become kings 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲. And I finally got my crown and a castle. I'm standing in a castle I helped build with the knight currently standing in her underwear in front of me. How could 𝐒𝐩𝐿 have night vision? 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 said, moving her arm to cover part of herself. Yeah, Izuku said. Speaking of that, how much have you done to yourself? 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 asked. A lot. Izuku said. Does 𝐒𝐻𝐿 no hurt? 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 asked. She hadn't asked about someone's well-being. She never asked about someone's health before. The muscle augmentations feel like my BLD is filled with napalm for the first few days after the augmentation. The bone graft feels like your flesh is boiling while your bones are feeling like shattered glass. Izuku said, I had to jam 5 6-inch needle into each of my eyes. So, 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 had shuddered. She hated needles. How exactly did you do all this? Self-surgery. Izuku said. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 looked at him up and down. I noticed your notebook changed. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 said. I changed. Izuku said. I was thinking about your speech. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 said. It was all true. Izuku said. I mean the one before the test. The whole intelligence-based survival thing, what was that about? 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲, the human race got where it is from thinking and building. Quirks have stalled the human race for so long and I want to prove you can become a hero without one. Izuku said, I know I have what it takes to be a hero and I know I want to be the next #1. I'm gonna dash. No, you aren't. Izuku said, getting close enough I could see his face. Your little swan dive comment cost you that. I'd have been happy as a hero, but now you ain't getting #1 until you rip it off my cold dead body. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 had started getting angry, but Izuku had grabbed her shoulder. I know you could be #1. I have no doubt about that, but that comment was the kick in the butt for me to finally decide no, I'm getting #1. You would have been the next All Might, but let me tell you here and now. Your best is gonna be Endeavor. You lost that privilege when you tried to instigate my suicide. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 had thought at that moment. OSHT. If Deku had jumped, his suicide note would have had her name on it. She'd have been black-booked from every hero school in the country. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 started. You almost. Izuku corrected. You almost lost it all, but I'm not suicidal. I've thought, what if I had died? Then a voice in my head says, you've got a lot of heirs to prove wrong. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 bowed her head. I'm sorry. For what exactly? Everything. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 said, I'm sorry for up your childhood. I'm sorry for treating you like SHT. I'm sorry for almost killing you. I don't forgive you. Izuku said. Wah. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 started. I don't have anything to forgive. Izuku said. But I did so much. 𝗏𝗏𝗵𝗲 shouted. I'm not built for being pissed about stuff. Izuku said, Anger is a weapon, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. It's a tool for when things are trying to kill you, and if it hasn't killed you, you go apathetic and, well, you don't have a reason to be angry. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was pulled into a hug. You want to be a hero, 𝗧𝗵𝗲, and I know you can, but I also know you're a big fish in a small pond. I've been a small fish my whole life and I want to change that. We're in an ocean now, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Izuku said, we have a new chance here to not be in the same place we've been for our whole life. You want to start over? Yeah, I'd like that. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said, hugging him back. Hi, my name is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku said, hi, I'm 𝗧𝗵𝗲. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said, smiling. The two stood there in silence for a few minutes. Could I leave here tonight? No. Izuku said flatly. Oh. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 had backed away, but Izuku stopped her. I mean, no, since I only have half a split king. 2 people wouldn't fit on my bed without making a lot of body heat. Izuku said, also my room is not fit for someone who sweats nitroglycerin to spend the night. Oh, right. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said, BLD rushing to her face. She went to bed with 4 fans running at max and slept with thin sheets. She didn't want to wake up to her quirk burning her bed again. Wait, why do you only have half a king? Mom hates sleeping in a king-sized empty bed, so Dad bought a split king. To be fair, they usually bone on every surface when Dad gets home, so they aren't really gonna be far from one another. Izuku said. Then you wanna? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 hadn't felt like this before. Some weird feeling in her chest. Was this nervousness? She really didn't like it. Let me get my pillow, Izuku said. Izuku put his arc reactor on his desk and grabbed his bamboo cooling pillow. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 had realized a little flaw in her request when she was laying with Deku currently having his arms around her and his groin pressed against her. He was way too strong for her to get out his grip, and he was currently also in his compression shorts, so it was embarrassing for her. Deku seemed completely fine with it and fell asleep before she did. Just go to sleep, it's not like we're it's just sleep. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 thought as she laid on the pillow and realized how good it felt. The tag said cooling memory foam. She decided to focus on thinking about something other than the muscular arm around her midsection. She eventually fell asleep with plans of getting a pillow like this. Or we could just have Izuku sleep here again. A voice said to her. 𝗧𝗵𝗲's head, the console went dim. Signaling sleep, and Angel 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was cracking her knuckles and stretching. Devil 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was glaring at the angel. You know, the second Deku does something stupid, I'm getting back in control. I know. But the damage is done, skank. The angel was laughing at her. I am really, you can't do 𝗧𝗏𝗍. You can't be a hero without me, you can't use our kicks without me, hell, you couldn't kill me when you got the quirk. Angel said, tilting her head and smirking. I'm going to bed. Devil said. Angel decided to step out and look around. When she looked behind her, she saw something she wasn't expecting. Consciousness could see one another, so she expected to see Izuku's. They had met before when they were really little and Angel missed him. What she saw hovering over Izuku's head was not Izuku. Was not Izuku. The armored person said, are you Izuku's consciousness? Or his devil? Both. It said as the mask unfolded like it was made of liquid and a horned Izuku appeared with his halo popping out. Wait, if you're wearing that then, Angel started before squealing, oh, I wish I could speak to 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Devil is gonna be pissed, all the Iron Man fangirl is gonna reroute to Izuku. I noticed the poster. Horned Angel said, pointing to multiple posters that looked like second-hand photos. She hunted down pictures from the people that saw the rescue and had these custom made. Angel said, wait till Izuku wakes up and sees the wall. He might make her a functional mini Iron Man collectible. Horned Angel said, so what happened? Last time we met, you and Devil were different people. Angel said, kinda pointless to waste the mental energy. Horned Angel said, you know, you two should merge. You open up so much potential when you're not arguing with someone about nonsense. Slow down, cowboy, I ain't mixing with the horn sing anytime soon. Angel said, plus, well, I'd suggest going easy on each other. You both live in the same head and your goals are the same. Get Kaken to be the best she can. What are you wearing? Like, seriously, it's like liquid metal or something. Angel said, walking over. This is the bleeding edge. It's the greatest suit Izuku could build with exclusively his tech. Horned Angel said, holding his hands out showing off the different weapons. The suit will change, but this is the best Izuku can do alone, but that is subject to change. The two just sat and talked, sitting on Izuku's head. So when is Zuzu gonna reveal he's Iron Man? You'll see. Horned Angel said, smirking. Izuku had gotten up first and left Katsumi's room, forced to leave his favorite pillow behind. He went through his morning routine and headed out to make himself some breakfast. When he was about to sit down, someone spoke. Hey. Izuku turned and saw the pink-haired girl from yesterday. His HUD was showing her full student file. Name, Mina Ishido, quirk, acid age, 19, hey me, sorry we haven't actually been introduced. Izuku said, trying to recover from his glasses. HUD being revealed. Oh, I'm Mina Ishido. Mina said, I guess you missed the first night everyone was here, so you don't know our names. I'm Izuku. You want anything? Izuku said, pointing to the still hot pan he cooked his food on. 2 eggs sunny side up. Mina said, and a few slices of bacon please. I'll take 2 fried 𝗧𝗏. Another student said, walking in. Name, 𝐒𝐭𝐴𝑗 earphone jack age, 18. Name, 𝐒𝐭𝐴𝑗 earphone jack age, 18. Who you calling 𝗧𝗏? This is my normal hair. Izuku and Mina both said. Him. She pointed her earphone jack at Izuku. Well, it isn't dye. Izuku said. So the carpet matches the drapes? Jiro asked, leaning in. I too am also curious. Mina said, leaning in, smiling. There's a theory about quirkless people I want to confirm. I'm not pulling my pants down near a grease-filled frying pan. Izuku said, if you want proof we can argue a up-close and personal view with your mouth around my dash. Oh, you think I wouldn't? How about I dash? Jiro started, jacks up like a snake ready to strike when someone walked in. What are we talking about? Toru asked, walking in. Name, Toru Hagakure, quirk, invisibility age, 18. Izuku tapped his glasses and started a wire frame of her and factored in the most likely color of her hair and eyes, blonde and blue, and his HUD now displayed her as looking normal. Izuku tapped his glasses and started a wire frame of her and factored in the most likely color of her hair and eyes, blonde and blue, and his HUD now displayed her as looking normal. This is what Izuku sees when looking at her. Midori's hair. Talking about his hair. Jiro said, putting a hand over Mina's mouth. Mina licked her hand and Jiro wiped it off on her skirt. Well, it does look soft. Toru was reaching for it and running her fingers through it. What product do you use? Just a dime-sized SQR of conditioner. Izuku said, your braid looks cute. Oh, thank you. Wait, how do you know my hair's in a braid? Toru said. Izuku said, the house has hundreds of sensors. Your entire body has a wire frame which the home manufactures an image of you if you were visible. Oh, so that's how my mirror could do that. Nearly 𝗧𝗏 myself when I saw my face. Toru said, rubbing the back of her head. Wait, you can see her. Mina said, we've been trying to get a solid answer about her. Jarvis displays image on TV1. Izuku said, yes, sir. Jarvis said the images appeared on the TV and Mina bowed her head. I own 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐽 $10. I told you call me 𝗧𝗏𝗵𝗏. Another greenhead said one name, 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 quirk, frog age, 18. Izuku asked what she wanted to eat since he was already cooking. 1 scrambled please. Ribbit. Tsuyu said. Coming up. Izuku said. I smell protein. A kid with red hair came running in. I smell protein. A kid with red hair came running in. Name, Ijiro Kirishima, quirk, harden age, 19, let me guess. 12 eggs in a glass. Izuku asked. What am I, a meathead? Ijiro asked, I'll take 5 fried and whatever meat you're cooking. Also, my protein powder is in the cabinet if you're making something that's there. There's room if you want to make a protein shake, but I'm busy cooking. Izuku said. You want one, bro? Kirishima asked. I'm good. Izuku said. You sure? You look like a guy who lifts. He asked. I'm good. Izuku said. All right then. Kirishima said, not fazed. Hey Izuku. Shoko said, walking in. Name, Shoko Todoroki, quirk, half hot half cold age, 18 name, Shoko Todoroki quirk, half hot half cold age, 18, hey Shoko. I guess I'm cooking for everyone this morning, so you want anything? Izuku asked. Soba. She asked. Jarvis. Izuku said. We have the ingredients required, sir. Jarvis said. Soba coming up. Izuku said. Do you have the ingredients for pancakes? Another person walked in. Do you have the ingredients for pancakes? Another person walked in. Name, 𝐼𝐼𝐺𝐻𝗵𝗲 quirk, creation age, 18. Izuku nodded and pulled out the bowl. So anyone excited for our first day? Ribbit? Tsuyu asked. I am. Another kid walked in. Name, 𝗵𝗲 𝗠𝗍𝗔 quirk, 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗔𝗍, 18 name, 𝗵𝗲 𝗠𝗍𝗔 quirk, 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗔𝗍, 18, you want anything? Izuku asked. I'll take those pancakes if you're making them. Thank you, he said, taking a seat. Is anyone else out in the hall? Izuku shouted, looking over. No one is currently in the halls, sir. Jarvis said. Izuku nodded. So everyone ready for classes? Tsuyu asked. Sure. Kirishima said, can't wait for the hero course. Not excited for the standard classes. Mina said, shuddering. She had scrapped by with a C in the written test and wasn't that good academically. If you're worried about the classes, these are tailored by Nezu to make sure everything you need to know about being a hero is taught. This history isn't gonna be a book, it's gonna be the facts from the actual score and official documents of the laws of heroing. Izuku said, taking a bite. You aren't gonna leave a single of those classes without learning something. Anyone pick their major? Momo asked. Mina just made a noise of what could only be described as pain of thinking. I haven't picked. Is it required? No, but you shouldn't lose this chance of a free master's along with the hero training. Izuku said. Mina groaned. Time skip. Aizawa had Izuku explained exactly what was in his body. I need to know exactly where you stand in terms of ability. Aizawa said, you're the only quirkless student in the school and I'd rather not send you into a no-win situation. That implies a guy with a quirk that shuts off quirks can either out-muscle, out-maneuver, or out-think me. Izuku said. Aizawa activated his quirk and Izuku lowered his glasses and looked him dead in the eye, making the light reflect. What exactly do you think that would do? What exactly do you think that would do? But this color. Aizawa turned off his quirk and Izuku apologized. Aizawa turned off his quirk and Izuku apologized. I honestly don't have a definitive upper limit to my strength cause I keep training. I honestly haven't measured cause it's just a number to overcome. I know I have a limit, but I've only started strength training a year ago. Alright, meet me at the weight room after class so the school can get a proper gauge. Aizawa said, marking something. Now about your costume. You haven't put in any order. 'Cause I build my own stuff. Izuku said. Aizawa nodded and Izuku walked off to his next class. Line break. Izuku had just got out of advanced engineering taught by Power Loader. The class was different from the support class, but it still had the gear. Mei had taken this too, so they had headed to the cafeteria together. After grabbing food and finding a seat, Izuku and Mei pulled out their notebooks. So what's the next plan for Stark Industries? Mei asked. I'm just waiting for money to come in. My next project needs a little time before it's even ready for launch. So another space mission? Mei asked, leaning to look at the book. Well, mainly around the outer atmosphere. Jarvis is running the numbers for the status. Izuku said. You sure you can't tell me? Mei asked, company secrets. Sorry, kinda need this to remain low-key until no one can actually stop me. Izuku said. Hey Midoriya. Momo said, walking over. Hey Momo. Izuku said, you wanna sit with us? Thank you. Momo said. Momo sat next to Mei and got a glance at Mei's notes. You're in the support class, right? Momo asked. 𝗵𝗃 CEO of 𝗵𝗃 Incorporated. For all your support gear and other necessities for heroes. Mei said. Momo Yayorozu. Momo said, I don't have a title like you and Midoriya. We'll get you one. Izuku said. Hero class. The students heard All Might announce himself. I am coming through the entrance like a normal person. When the door opened, in walked the number 1 hero in costume. All Might. One student said. That's his Golden Age costume. That is correct. Today you begin your journey in becoming the next generation of heroes. All Might said, now before we begin clothes. Make the man and you all have your very own costumes. He pressed a button and a wall of boxes opened. Everyone received their costumes and All Might had told them to get to the training grounds. 𝗏𝗧𝗵𝗲 POV. Was there a meeting that I missed about costumes being skimpy? Katsumi thought. Round Face and Pinky were wearing skin-tight outfit. Ponytail was wearing F-floss and she could swear 𝗵𝗲𝗁𝗁 was wearing only gloves. At least half and half had on a boiler suit. Katsumi had gone with function over fashion. Ceramic body armor and her gauntlets were her original costume, but she honestly hadn't a clue to figure out how to use her feet to create a super attack. Picture will be in next chapter. Katsumi had actually started wonder what Deku would put in his suit. The thought of the outfit was immediately stomped when she watched a shirtless Deku walk out the changing room. The thought of the outfit was immediately stomped when she watched a shirtless Deku walk out the changing room. The speakers started blaring rock music. That thing Hobo-sensei had called out wasn't a black circle, it was a blue light. A river of gold metal seemed to cover his body as holes opened around his body. When the gold had fully formed, red pieces of metal came flying out of the changing room. Katsumi watched as before her eyes the pieces arranged themselves into something she had known. Katsumi watched as before her eyes the pieces arranged themselves into something she had known. Katsumi's hands shook and her head was starting to try tell her she was only dreaming. When the mask whizzed past his head, he broke into a sprint and jumped into the air, flipped so the mask landed properly on his face and landed near the students in a slide. When the mask whizzed past his head, he broke into a sprint and jumped into the air, flipped so the mask landed properly on his face and landed near the students in a slide. I am awesome. Deku's voice coming from her metal knight had caused her to black out. Building Izuku and Mina got paired up as villains while Shoko and Katsumi got paired as the hero team. All Might explained the exercise and Izuku was placing things around the walls and entrances to the bomb. What you doing? Mina asked. Web burst proximity mines. Izuku said, they trip the scanner and they get tangled in bio cable. So are you really quirkless? Mina asked. Izuku said, looking around, okay, there are two entrances that don't result in getting tangled up. What's your quirk? I can spray acid out my skin. Mina said. Can you do a circle of it around the bomb? Not strong enough to melt the floor, but a complete circle. Mina nodded and did a few circles. What's this for? Mina asked. Todoroki is gonna freeze the building. Izuku said, grabbing her and pulling her in the circle. A beeping came from the suit. What's going on? Our 10 minutes are up. Izuku said, when they get in here, the second you see Todoroki, I can handle Katsumi. Okay. Mina said. A burst of cold filled the room, freezing the floor, the ceiling and everything except the circle. Oh, that's brisk. Mina said, rubbing her arms. Shoko and Katsumi, okay, they should be frozen in place. Shoko said as she removed her hand from the building. Listen, icy hot. I don't know half the SHT that's in that suit. But Deku is mine. Katsumi said, sparking her hands. Are you the Katsumi Midoriya told me will take my father's place? Shoko asked. Deku said that. Katsumi asked. He said the line-up is him, you and then me. Do you think he really will prevent us from getting number one? Shoko asked, can he even do that? Deku has everything to stop me. Katsumi said, face going sad before hardening, but you aren't getting second. Shoko had thought, what the hell could Midoriya to prevent that? A rapid beeping had sent the two into fight or flight. Katsumi moved and Shoko frozen. Minutes later, so sticky. Shoko said, covered in white webbing. The mines had always let off loud beeps to warn when they went off, but Katsumi was more equipped to move at a rapid pace when the traps got triggered, and poor Shoko had walked into 4 web mines. Each one wasting time of Katsumi having to help her get down. Is this even fair? Ochako asked All Might from the viewing area. Controlling the battlefield is a big factor in winning for both sides. All Might said, Endeavor and Nezu uses this tactic all the time to get villains to basically walk into police custody. Mineta was snapping pictures of Shoko covered in the white substance. I am curious about Midoriya's method. Ida said, Ishido's acid was a good strategy to block the ice. And from the feed we know that was a on-the-spot decision. All Might said, holding up a thumb, thinking on the spot is a useful tool. Young Bakugo has the right reflexes to avoid the traps. Bomb Room Izuku was standing there with his arms crossed just listening. Man, this is boring. Mina said. Lurking is the best strategy if we want to stop them. Izuku said, it's also useful when you're outgunned. So act like a xenomorph. Sure. Mina said, thinking about a dream she often had and her costume. She had gotten a letter saying they won't make her. So act like a xenomorph. Sure. Mina said, thinking about a dream she often had and her costume. She had gotten a letter saying they won't make her 9DM costume board. Mina though. Get to cover. I hear Katsumi. Izuku said as he pressed himself against a wall near a doorframe. The sounds of explosions had reached Mina's ears and she dove for cover. Katsumi shouted. Shoko was riding on her back and the sudden stop sent her flying off, but she made a ramp or ice to land upright. That was your fault, half and half. Katsumi said. No. Izuku shouted, shooting Katsumi with a repulsor beam, getting her away from the bomb. Mina jumped at Shoto and readied a palm of acid. If anyone can find the pic of Mina slapping someone with acid, I'd like it please. If anyone can find the pic of Mina slapping someone with acid, I'd like it please. I saw it on a meme compilation but can't find it. Katsumi was dead set on Izuku and Todoroki was just sending ice at Mina, but the acid prevented it from sticking to her. I'm RBB your glue. Mina exclaimed, but Todoroki crouched down and touched the floor. A massive wave of ice spikes came towards her. A massive wave of ice spikes came towards her. 15 Mina sent a burst of acid around her and she had barely dodged it. Todoroki had tried to glide over the ice to get the bomb, but Mina melted the spots on the floor and Shoko tripped. Meanwhile, the two others were throwing punches and kicks. Katsumi was surprisingly quiet during the entire thing. Come on, give me something here. Izuku said, kicking her back and opening his shoulder launcher. Izuku said, kicking her back and opening his shoulder launcher. Katsumi had been slammed into the wall by the barrage. A spray of cold from the zero cannon was focused on Katsumi's midsection. She slapped him in the face with the goal of blasting the face plate off. Heated suit. Nice touch, but I see you didn't add anything for those kicks of yours. Izuku said, poorly designed gauntlets too actually. Might want to talk to Dash. A explosive kick had sent him backwards. I'll show you SHSHT tie design. Katsumi shivered. Her gauntlets had flashed red. These gauntlets aren't just for show. These gauntlets aren't just for show. She pulled the gauntlet back and a pin came out. They store my sweat to use all at once for one monstrous blast. Is Midoriya gonna be able to survive that? All Might thought, young Bakugo, don't do it. All Might said into the comm, you'll kill him. He'll be fine if he dodges. Katsumi shouted. And I'm actually hurt you said that, Toshi. Izuku said into his comm. Wait, Midoriya, this is a private comm. How can Dash? The blast had engulfed Midoriya. The students were watching If Fear when the cameras got whited out from the light. Katsumi was cackling, but when the smoke cleared, Deku was standing there, body smoking with a fully repaired armor. The F was the collective shout from the class. Memory metal. Heat it up and it fixes all the dents. Midoriya said, lifting his helmet to see him grinning. Almost gotten through before the blast. Katsumi eyes widened and her face fell. As I said, poor design choices. Izuku said, smirking. Katsumi was shaking. She had just rushed forward, exploding into a knee strike to the face, then stomping on his chest and a hand blast in a quick succession. He was knocked down and she landed on him. Her legs were around his stomach and she was just throwing as many palm strikes as she could. You think that 𝐷𝗵𝗲 is anything, Tome? Katsumi shouted between blasts to Izuku's mask, a Deku cowering in a suit of armor. Take that away, what is left. Izuku grabbed her gauntlet by the handle and his helmet unfolded completely. A genius billionaire playboy with a particular set of skills. The gauntlet was moved to Izuku's face. You can take away my toys. The bar was slid back by Izuku. Knock me down, his thumb slipped into the pin. Beat me and shame me. Katsumi realized what he was doing and his other hand grabbed her free hand. But there's one thing you can't take from me. The pin was yanked out and a blast hit him dead in the face. The pin was yanked out and a blast hit him dead in the face. Katsumi tried to move. She tried to get her arm away. The metal still hot as his glasses, which were still on his face, prevented his eyes from getting melted. The metal still hot as his glasses, which were still on his face, prevented his eyes from getting melted. Iron Man, Izuku said as the flesh on his face had healed. Katsumi had decided to just use the capture rope and she had gotten Izuku, but All Might announced the villains won. Katsumi had decided to just use the capture rope and she had gotten Izuku, but All Might announced the villains won. Previously with Mina and Shoto, Mina had been dancing around Todoroki, having more skating experience and the fear of her opponent. Todoroki didn't expect much from Mina. She honestly hadn't gauged the whole thing actually. Bakugo had Midoriya, so her goal was the bomb. When the entire building shook from the Bakugo gauntlets, she was reaching for the bomb when Mina had gotten her around the ankle with the capture rope. Not today. And yanked her leg back and falling on her face. Time's up. All Might shouted. Line break. Okay, who wants to tell me who was the MVP of this match? All Might asked. Midoriya was the manliness on the field. Kirishima said. Kinda the default for that title in this match. Izuku said, crossing his arms. Yes, Midoriya had the best planning. He along with Bakugo refused to get input from their team. Momo said. Honestly, I had no idea what we should do. Mina said sheepishly. I didn't have anything beyond freeze the building and get to the bomb. Shoko said. I honestly thought we'd walk into a room with you two frozen in place. Always check your antifreeze. Izuku said. See. Half and half, not adding anything isn't my fault. Katsumi said. Midoriya also unnecessarily fired your gauntlet at himself. Momo said. Shock value. Izuku said. But the best of this is definitely Ishido. Momo said, she played her role and held a fear for her opponent. Excellent evaluation, young Yaoyorozu. Midoriya, I'd like to ask how you heard my conversation with young Bakugo. They're not special channel comms. You can get a set from any retail store. They have the same channels as walkie-talkies. I just checked the other channels with my helmet. Izuku said. A good strategy. All Might said, now next group is up. Izuku had gotten to the weight room and was showing Aizawa his usual workout. Half a ton. Aizawa said, writing it down. I ain't even shaking. This would have crushed me last year. Izuku said, racking the bar. Okay, so how long do you run? Aizawa asked. I sprint for 2 hours and don't start counting till I'm at peak heart rate. Izuku said. Okay, and you don't have a quirk? Aizawa asked. 'Cause if you don't, I'm the King of France. Kinda easy to get this ripped with a reinforced skeleton and myostatin inhibitor. Izuku said. And your heart isn't affected by this at all? Aizawa asked. Electroative polymer. Izuku said, the arc reactor can add power to my heart if I'm drugged or I need more BLD flow. Aizawa had Izuku lift the bar against and activated his quirk. Not a quirk. Izuku said, grinning as he did another set. Okay, I've seen enough. Aizawa said, rubbing his eyes. Young Midoriya. A voice said behind Aizawa. A voice said behind Aizawa. Aizawa eyes widened. I need your assistance in testing ground 3. All Might said, lifting the faceplate. You know you need a permit to sell support equipment. Aizawa said. I didn't. I made a spare suit and I left it in Nezu's office. I never went back to get it. Izuku said. Sure, Aizawa said, turning to All Might. So is this gonna be your new thing? Yep. I'm gonna zero out my hero card and take up the title of Iron Liberty. All Might said. Why aren't you making support gear? Aizawa said. Oversaturated market. Izuku said. Your stuff is good enough to compete. Aizawa said. Why not double major? 'Cause the second I try making support gear, I will create the unstable molecule. Izuku said. May I ask what that is? Aizawa asked. All Might put a hand on Aizawa's shoulder. It's called the support suicide. Anyone who would actually make it would immediately be hunted by every support company on the planet. It's literally screaming, "Please kill me," in every language. Aizawa blinked. And why is it called that? And how do you know that? "'Cause I lost my first sidekick to that project." All Might said, "S.H.I.E.L.D.'s partner was a genius and would have had it, but I found him splattered across a city block with his notes burned and every computer they had smashed to dust. Even knowing the name and saying you want to make it will put you on a few lists. Mainly hit lists of the entire support industry and a suicide watch. You'll also like Can You Save Me? Complete by fanatic of stuff Can You Save Me? Complete 9K 7K in this alternative universe. Midoriya Izuku has become a villain. He no longer fights for justice but for revenge. Will his childhood friend Bakugo Katsuki save him fro that time Izuku got hit with an age quirk by Izusuke's that time Izuku got hit with an age quirk 3K Izuku gets hit with a quirk whilst on patrol which reverts him to his 5-year-old self. Izuku has no knowledge of anyone in his class except for one. Katsuki is assigned the happiness of 3𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 by Hitchhiker's Guide the happiness of 3𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 3K quirkless when famous drummer Katsuki Bakugo is thrown back into the life of artist Izuku Midoriya they both unearth unresolved feelings. The son of a rich so shot Dad for All. Bizarre Reality by Anime Eagle Scout Dad for All. Bizarre Reality 3KK All for One body jumps into Hisashi Midoriya the day he fought